Hey, this is C&D Channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for the Ultimate Fighter 18 finale, which happens on November 30th. Overall, there's actually a lot of people that are fighting for the first time in the UFC. As far as like the Ultimate Fighter goes, I mean, you have a lot of women fighting. A lot of people didn't really expect to make the final, like Julianna Pena versus Jessica Rakoczy. I don't think many expected them to get this far. I personally thought that Jessamyn and Shayna Baszler would end up winning the whole thing. I was way off. The main card's actually primarily, it's 3 women's fights on the main card. It really goes to show how much, how good the season was. And personally, I think the women really made the season. So, yeah, as far as predicting fights here goes, it's kind of tough, actually. I got to say, a lot of UFC newcomers. Women's fights are really hard to call because a lot of times you see a very glaring weakness in a lot of female fighters. So it's like who exposes that weakness is the key. So it's really tough for me to call a lot of these fights, to be honest with you. Actually, a lot of fights in general are just kind of tough to call. In the main event, we got Nate Diaz versus Maynard. Well, Maynard has an 11-2 record with 1 draw and 1 no contest. 2 wins by KO or TKO, 9 wins by decision. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 34 years old, training out of AKA. He's a very strong wrestler. He's pretty big for 155. His boxing is improving, and he has really good top control. He actually beat Nate Diaz back in, I think it was, I didn't write it down, but he actually beat him, I think it was by split decision. He mainly stood with him. Nate Diaz has a 16-9 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 11 wins by sub. He's 28 years old on a 2-fight losing streak to Benson Henderson and to Josh Thompson. He trains at Cesar Gracie. He's got some good at boxing, that, the Stockton slap style. High output, really good chin. Despite getting knocked out by Josh Thompson, I mean, the guy does have a really good chin. He took a lot of clean hits before getting like head kicked and subsequently punched and TKO'd. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is really strong. He's tall and lanky. He's good off his back. You'll see him pull off triangle chokes from his back. He has really good front chokes as well. His cardio is really good. This fight's only going 3 rounds. He is susceptible to leg kicks. He's doesn't have the best takedown defense either. I gotta say that, Maynard, I gotta say, has not been impressing me as of late. He had some great fights with Frankie Edgar. His fight with Guida kind of sucked. And he got beat up by TJ Grant. One thing that's kind of noticeable with Maynard these days is he's kind of fallen in love with his hands, it looks like. I don't see the wrestling from Maynard that I used to see. Diaz, Diaz is Diaz, on the feet. It could go either. Last time they fought, Maynard was fighting him using primarily stand-up. It just, I can't help but feel that Maynard is kind of, I guess, regressing, I guess. I don't see the wrestling there. He seems to have fallen in love with his hands a little too much. And, yeah, it just, he hasn't had the best performances as of late. I gotta go with Nate Diaz to win this one. Diaz is, like I said, Diaz is Diaz, you kind of know what to expect from him. He has that boxing with a really high output. He'll go for like body, head, and head shots. The Stockton slap servers not putting like 100% power into each strike. His ground game's really good. So even if Maynard gets a takedown, I mean, he's got to watch out for Diaz's ground game. I gotta go with Diaz here. I just think that Maynard just has fallen too in love with his hands, to be honest with you. Okay, for the Ultimate Fighter 18 men's tournament final, we have Chris Holdsworth versus Davey Grant. Both these guys will make their UFC debuts. Davey Grant has an 8-1 record, 1 win by TKO, 7 wins by sub. He's 27 years old on an 8-fight win streak. He is a finisher. He has good stand-up, solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Chris Holdsworth, though, 4-0 undefeated record, with all 4 wins being by submission. He's never been past the second round. He is also a finisher. Very strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Good wrestler as well. And Holdsworth actually showed some pretty good hands, like against like Chris Beal, for example. I gotta go with Holdsworth. He's actually a pretty good prospect. I remember he was in the that Bloody Elbow scouting reports as well. I think he can get the fight to the ground and work his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. It's going to be pretty tough. Davey Grant showed in the Ultimate Fighter. He's pretty big. He's big for the weight class. Kind of good all around, But Holdsworth, definitely a specialist. I just got to go with Holdsworth to win this one. Okay, next fight after that. For the Ultimate Fighter 18 women's tournament final, we have Julianna, the Venezuelan Vixen Pena, versus Jessica Ragin Rakoczy, my bad. This one's interesting because, quite honestly, like, Julianna Pena, she does hit hard, but she has some really sloppy technique. I mean, honestly, her stand-up is, like, just on a technical level, really bad. I mean, she just throws sloppy haymakers and just kind of bull rushes forward sometimes, throwing sloppy haymakers. She's definitely going to be better than Rakoczy on the ground. Rakoczy has pro boxing experience as well. The record, the thing with women's MMA too is records are really deceiving. Always deceiving. Jessica Rakoczy has a one win and 3 losses with 1 no contest. Her 3 losses are to like Michelle Old, Felice Herrig, I want to say Kat Zingano or something like that. I mean, it's all like the top female fighters, She has 1 win by KO. She is 36 years old and a natural 125er. She does have pro boxing experience. If you watch the Ultimate Fighter, her grappling is indeed improving. I mean, she wasn't a total fish out of water. I mean, she did get taken down by like Raquel Pennington and Roxanne Modafferi. They couldn't really do much to her once she was down there. So that was really interesting to see. Julianna Pena, 4-2 record, 1 win by TKO, 3 wins by sub. She's 24 years old. She's actually on a 2-fight losing streak. She trains out of Sikjitsu. Others that train out of Sikjitsu would be Michael Chiesa, Sam Cecilia. She is a finisher. She's really tough and gritty. Like I said, she does have some sloppy stand-up, but has power. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is pretty solid. It's really tough to say who's going to win this fight. This one's really tough because I would assume that Pena's going to be the favorite. Rightfully so. I think, if she can get the fight to the ground, she can beat Rakoczy on the ground. That's how she beat Sarah Morris as well. So it's not, definitely not impossible. I liked what I saw with Rakoczy, especially when she uses her jab. She is good at boxing at a distance, whereas Julianna kind of just wings haymakers and tries to get in the inside very sloppily. And like I said, I liked what I saw with Rakoczy's improvement overall in grappling. You know, I think that Rakoczy's going to win. For some reason, I'm thinking like Uriah Hall versus Kelvin Gastelum here. I just can't help but think like, the person that no one thought would win will end up winning it, and she's like the last pick too. And her record honestly isn't very good. Like I said, in women's MMA, records are extremely deceiving. Look at the 3 losses. They are all top female fighters. That's the thing. If I'm not mistaken, too, I know a lot of women fight outside of their natural weight class. So, once again, it's really hard to call. I know Pena is probably going to be a favorite. I think she's better on the ground. Could possibly get takedowns on her. I think Rakoczy's better on the feet. I gotta go with Jessica Rage and Rakoczy. I just got a feeling about this. I don't know. It's... But besides a feeling, because I usually don't go with emotional fight too much, I really do think she can keep the fight. If it's anything like the Raquel Pennington fight, I think she can keep Julianna Pena on the outside, use her jab, and when she is taken down, I don't know if Pena can really do too much. She could lay on her, I guess, but it's not impossible. I mean, seriously, if I see Pena winning, it's probably a takedown, top control, maybe get a submission victory. I don't see it, though, to be honest with you. I'm going with Jessica Rage and Rakoczy to win this one. Next fight after that, we have Jessamyn the Gun Duke versus Peggy the Daywalker Morgan. The thing with female fighters, they got the most creative nicknames as well. Jessamyn Duke is a prospect I've been looking out for at women's bantamweight. She's actually, I think someone else said it too, she actually is one of the top female prospects out there right now. I mean, there's a lot more of these, especially at like 115. You got like Rose Namajunas, Tessa Torres, who only have like 2 or 3 fights. If you want to still call like Joanne Calderwood a prospect, I don't really think she is at this point. You can. But yeah, Duke is definitely one of the top prospects out there. She has a 2-0 record, undefeated. She has 1 no contest, 1 win by TKO, 1 win by sub. She's 27 years old. She's 5'11" and a finisher. Stand-up's good. It's solid. She has good knees, especially in the clinch. Her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's solid as well. She's good off her back. She submitted Marcia Allen with an armbar while getting ground and pounded, and then she won her fight into the house by a triangle choke from her back as well. It is her first fight in the UFC. Peggy the Daywalker Morgan, 2-0 undefeated record, both wins by decision. She's 6'1", big for 135. She's good kickboxing. She's kind of weak on the ground though. It's her first fight in the UFC. I gotta go with Jessamyn Duke. She just has a little more tools to win the fight. If it stays standing, it could get interesting. If the fight eventually hits the ground, which I don't know if it will, to be honest with you. If the fight hits the ground, I gotta go with Duke. But if it stays standing, Duke has good stand-up herself. So, I mean, Morgan's primarily, like, stand-up. But, I think Duke can definitely hold her own. And I think she's a better grappler as well. I'll go with Jessamyn the Gun Duke to win that one. And the final fight of the main card, you have Roxanne the Happy Warrior Modafferi versus Raquel Rocky Pennington. Modafferi has a 15-10 record, 1 win by TKO, 4 wins by sub. She also has 3 losses by sub. 31 years old on a 5-fight losing streak. It is a really bad losing streak. She is a veteran with good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. She's a natural 125er though. She's small for the weight class. Stand-up's kind of weak. I mean, she's tough and gritty, and she'll go for it. And she really puts this, like, torrid pace in her fights. Once her fights against, like, Tara LaRosa or something, I mean, she goes for it, you know. She's definitely not afraid to stand in the pocket and start swinging, you know. But her stand-up's, like, really awkward, though. I mean, it's just not that good. She throws punches awkwardly. She throws, like, taekwondo kicks that... Honestly, she doesn't have a lot of power. One thing about Modafferi, love her to death, you know. Big fan of hers. Her personality, the fact that she is a fighter. I mean, she's like a nerd, pretty much, that fights, you know. But her stand-up, like, she's honestly just extremely unathletic. That's the thing with her. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. She's not much of an athlete, you know, and which I can see why she's, you know, in the show she's really, like, technical, you know. She's more when she's being taught, she seemed to want to know more of the technical aspects of things. Raquel Rocky Pennington has a 3-3 record, 1 win by TKO, 1 win by sub. She's 25 years old on a 2-fight losing streak. That would be to Kat Zingano and Leslie Smith. Once again, like, 3-3 record. It's not a good record, but when you're fighting, like, Kat Zingano and Leslie Smith, and you're, like, 4th and 5th MMA fights, you know, that's a pretty big leap. So, once again, records are really deceiving in women's MMA. She does have good boxing. She's tough and gritty. It's her first fight in the UFC. Not a bad ground game as well, but she prefers to stand. I gotta go with Raquel Rocky Pennington. I think she'll be able to keep the fight on the feet and outbox Modafferi and probably avoid the takedown as well. Okay, on to the prelims, which will be on Fox Sports 1. Maximo Blanco fights Akira Corassani. This fight's really hard for me to call because Maximo Blanco honestly has top 10 talent. This guy, stand-up solid. He has really strong wrestling, good takedown defense. You know, throws a jab really well. 9-4 record, 1 draw, 1 no contest, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by decision. Also has 2 losses by submission. He's 30 years old. Heavy-handed guy, good boxer, good wrestler, good takedown defense. If you watch actually like the Pat Healy fight, he was actually defending his takedowns despite being the much smaller fighter early on. It's just later on he wasn't defending the takedowns, and Pat Healy managed to get the rear naked choke. His fight IQ sucks. I don't know how else to say it. Watch the Marcus Brimage fight. I don't know what this guy was thinking when he was fighting Brimage. When he's on the ground with, oh man, when he was fighting Sam Cecilia, fence grabbing. And he's fighting Pat Healy, he was kicking him in the face when they're both like in this weird like heel hook position when he was a grounded opponent. I mean, the guy's fight IQ is terrible. If he can ever fix the fight IQ thing, he'd be a top 10 guy. I honestly feel Maximo Blanco is that good, talent-wise, but man, it's all in his head, you know. And really, him winning or losing this fight, in my opinion, it's on Maximo Blanco. I mean, it depends on who shows up. Akira Corassani, 11-3 record with 1 no contest, 1 win by TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by KO or TKO. He's 31 years old on the 2-fight win streak. Trains out of Henzo Gracie's. Stand-up's really improving. Against really surprised me against Robbie Peralta. I don't think he beat Andy Ogle though. But against Robbie Peralta, showed some pretty solid stand-up. What I really liked in the Peralta fight was his movement. He was actually moving really well. But yeah, you know, Akira can win depending on how good, you know, how bad Blanco can look. At Blanco's worst, yeah, I'll pick Akira Corassani. I'll go with Maximo Blanco here But, there's a big but here. It really depends on who shows up. Because the guy, seriously, is kind of a head case when it comes to fighting. I mean, the guy just does weird things, does things in the cage I wish he wouldn't do. Okay, next right after that, we have 2 UFC newcomers and heavyweights as Walter Harris fights Jared Rosholt. Walter Harris has a 4-1 record, all 4 wins by KO or TKO. He's 30 years old on a 3-fight win streak. All of his wins are by KO or TKO in the first round. He's got some heavy hands, and like I said, first fight in the UFC. Jared Rosholt has an 8-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He's 27 years old on a 4-fight win streak. Trains on a team takedown. He's a strong wrestler, really good top control, really good in the ride position. His cardio kind of sucks when he wants, who did he fight? Derek Lewis, I think. I mean, he was doing really good against him. I think it was Derek Lewis. He was taking him down, couldn't finish him. His cardio betrayed him, got beat up on the feet, lost the fight. Wouldn't surprise me if that happened with Rosholt. When I see this fight, Jared Rosholt gets a takedown, gets top control, probably even gets the ride position, gets some ground and pound here, wins the fight there. So I got Jared Rosholt winning that one. Okay, next fight after that, Tom Niinimaki fights Rani Yahya. Well, Niinimaki has a 20-5 record with 1 draw, 7 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by sub. He's 31 years old on a 11-fight win streak. It's his first fight in the UFC, and he's from Finland. Rani Yahya, 19-7 record, 15 wins by submission, 4 wins by decision, 2 losses by KO or TKO. He's 28 years old on a 3-fight win streak. Trains out of Constrictor Team. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And his wrestling's pretty good. He's really improved his style because he's really relentless about getting takedowns and staying on top control. I mean, that's his style. He kind of became a grinder. He's really good back control as well. His cardio sucks. I mean, seriously, in so many of his fights, even his last fight, it's just he wins the first 2 rounds, and the guy just coasts on the 3rd round. And his cardio just betrays him a lot. His striking, below average. It's not that great. Regardless, I don't know much about Niinimaki, to be perfectly honest with you. I do know with Yahya, he's actually doing pretty well in the UFC. His style is working pretty good with his relentless takedowns and his top control. I gotta go with the much more proven Rani Yahya to win that one. Okay, next fight after that, Drew Dober fights Sean Spencer. Drew Dober has a 13-4 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub. It's on a 4-fight win streak, and it's his first fight in the UFC. Sean Spencer has a 10-2 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. Also has both his losses are by submission. Stand-up's pretty solid. Against Joey Villafort, you really saw his stand-up is pretty good. His takedown defense was actually improving in that fight as well. I gotta go Sean Spencer to win that one. And finally, on the prelims, which will be on Facebook, Ryan Benoit fights Joshua Sampo. Both these guys are making their UFC debut. Ryan has a 7-2 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He is a finisher. He's good stand-up. He's really aggressive and really pushes forward. I forgot what organization I keep watching him in. It's one of those Axis ones. I always see him in it's either Legacy or RFA. I forgot which one it was, but I keep seeing him. I remember him, his fights as just being this really kind of this pit bull type of fighter. Just always pushing forward, really aggressive. Joshua Sampo, he's been opening up some eyes. He got wins over Alexis Vila, and was it Campuzano or I think Campuzano beat him. I'm not too sure, and I think Benuelos or something like that. Sampo has a 10-2 record, 5 wins by sub, 5 wins by decision. 29 years old on a 4-fight win streak. He's got some good wrestling and some good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. First fight in the UFC. I'll go with Joshua Sampo to win that one. Okay, to recap the main card, I have Nate Diaz over Gray Maynard. Chris Holdsworth over Davey Grant. Jessica Ragin Rakoczy over Julianna the Venezuelan Vixen Pena. Jessamyn the Gun Duke over Peggy the Daywalker Morgan. And I have Raquel Rocky Pennington beating Roxanne the Happy Warrior Modafferi. On to Fox Sports 1 prelims, I have Maximo Blanco beating Akira Corassani. Jared Rosholt over Walter Harris. Rani Yahya over Tom Niinimaki. And Sean Spencer over Drew Dober. On the Facebook prelim fight, I got Joshua Sampo beating Ryan Benoit. So that's it for my predictions for the Ultimate Fighter 18 finale. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for You. Thank you guys very much.